very fond memories of Geoff. I was a locally scouted player. So, unlike maybe some of the others, like Phil Neal and Ian Rush and stuff, I got to know Geoff in a slightly different way, largely through my dad. My dad was in contact with Geoff as I was just basically being introduced to the club, and Geoff helped us out on tickets one or two occasions, which were always very kindly received. But I think he felt perhaps there's a little bit of a link with me as I became more of a professional at the club, and had many days talking to Geoff, memories of football, and perhaps he would just be giving me little snippets of sort of I don't know, little stories whereby I think he was trying to give me confidence and try and help me sort of progress along the chain, so to speak.
How thankful are you to Geoff for your career as well?
Well, obviously, like many people who are involved with Liverpool, I have fond memories, of Geoff, and along the way, as I said, he certainly helped me with one or two little moments, coaxing me along. But I mean, same perhaps as I was very grateful to the likes of Ronnie Moran, Bob Paisley, Bill Shankly. But Geoff was very much a big part of what was going on, very much one of the unsung backroom boys.
How important is it that we now still remember the work that Geoff did for the club?
Oh, vital, I think, as we remember Bill Shankly for laying the foundations in place. Geoff is very much part of all that. He was a guy that Bill Shankly very much trusted in. They had their methods and their ideals of how they found players and the type of players that they wanted at Liverpool, and maybe not just players but as individuals, personalities. I mean, you have to be the right type, I think, to be a part of Liverpool as much as the right type of player, and Geoff led that in his role as chief scout.
Well, I think Geoff is what you call a real scout. I think if you look at the modern game today, the amount of scouts that are in the game, they've all got video evidence and they can go through it with all statistics, whereas Geoff just saw a player with his eye, and his track record was second to none. I remember, obviously Geoff had watched me a few times. I went to watch Liverpool in the European Cup final against Bruges when Kenny scored, and 3 weeks later I was on my way to sign for Liverpool. So I don't know how many times he actually watched me, but as I say, over the years, the amount of players that he brought in, and he sort of watched them on numerous occasions, both home and mostly away, because a lot of players sometimes can play well at home, but you don't see them away from home. So I think he did his homework really well, and he contributed to Liverpool being a major force for the period of times he was there.
And what was your first introduction to him? How did you introduce himself? Do you remember your first meeting with him?
Well, Geoff was sort of, you never really saw him. It was only when you went to sign that he introduced himself. So, and a few people said that he never used to sort of get tickets to go to the games. He'd pay through the turnstile, so he'd want to get a feel of what supporters thought about players, and not be recognised at ground. So there was no speculation. So I'm sure that the first time it was in the papers was when the player actually signed.
And now yourself, you're working for Everton with the academy. Do you appreciate how difficult it must be to spot a young player and then see them develop into such a player as yourself and Ronnie Whelan and become such a great player?
That's it for me, Geoff. At the Liverpool, when I signed, it was, you knew that you'd have to serve your time in the reserves before you went straight into the first team. So it was a case of Geoff, picked mostly younger players that he felt that could settle in, like Alan Hansen, Steve Nicol. It took them a long time. I remember being in digs with Alan Hansen, and he was very frustrated and not being able to break into the first team. But obviously once he got into the first team, he made the position his own. So it's going back to Geoff. He obviously had an eye for a player. He knew what they could do, their strengths, their weaknesses, and 10 times out of 10 he got it right.
Well, I'm indebted to the man. I'm one of those players, like a lot of others. The conveyor belt of players doesn't just stop at me. It was before me and lots afterwards as well. So Geoff was phenomenal in his eye for talent that would fit in to play the Liverpool way, to understand the game quite quickly, get in there and do the business. And he was phenomenal. The amount of talent that he actually purchased from start to finish. He would be a wow in the modern game today, wouldn't he?
How pleased are you that a book has come out about Geoff that recognises the ability that he had? It's nice that an unsung hero like Geoff is getting the credit he deserves.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he stayed with the lower leagues, because Geoff had played the football at all levels, and at Liverpool too, but he'd played it at all levels. So I think Geoff was appreciative that, giving a youngster a chance, Ray Clements, Keegan, Rush, Hansen, from all sorts of lives, north of the border, south of the border, Wales. He was on the lookout for those youngsters, as well as the quality players. Obviously replacing Kevin Keegan with Kenny Dalglish as well was down to Geoff too. So, let's say he could go across the classes, but he certainly was a great asset to Bill Shankly and the early part of the development of Liverpool.
Was Geoff an encourager for yourself? Did he encourage you and give you tactics and tips on what to do?
No, I used to go in early and have a cup of tea with him and Ruben in the mornings, and there's some wise old owl Geoff was, because he says, look, hey, the boss thinks you can play at centre back as well as left back and as well as right back. I can kick with 2 feet. So it was Geoff's encouragement that gave me faith to say, look, I know there's a bunch of internationals like Tommy Smith, Ian Callaghan, Chris Lawler, Ray Clements, Evan Hughes, Toshak, Keegan. I know I walked him, Tomo, and it was a dressing room full of internationals, but he really gave me faith that I could break into it. And I think, it was his talks with Bob Paisley that said, hey, look, you're looking for a left back at Everton, don't tell him he's playing, and he dropped me in, very surprised kind of entry, really, on the morning of the Everton-Liverpool game on my debut. But I didn't let them down, and that was full credit to Geoff, really, and giving me the license to say, go and express yourself. It's not, they don't ask you to do anything that you couldn't do at Northampton, so go and join the international brigade and, feel comfortable, and in the end I did.